Hello and welcome to the Wednesday check-in here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is April 16th, 2025. I am streaming the recording of this live, so forgive me if I glance over at chat and find something funny, if anybody does end up chatting in there today. It's kind of spur of the moment, a little bit later of a recording for me today, so I do apologize to those that are looking at the regular time, our upload schedule. That this one is a little bit later, but this is as one David Goxstein would say, a bit of a pause market. We've got Bitcoin going sideways here. Of course, we're going to talk about Bitcoin today. We will take a look at Ethereum and Solana real quick, but where Bitcoin goes, the rest of the market's pretty much going to follow. And in this case, we have the same areas that we've been talking about for quite some time. Just overhead, we've got that weekly higher low swing that we need to reclaim, that we've seen basically a little bit of a front run on the way back up to retest after the big rejection, testing the breakdown. That breakdown retest up here, this area right here, this is where I'm bearish below, and you can kind of see how this cuts across kind of the bottom side of the candles, kind of forming a zone down there anyway. But you can see how once we closed below there, we lost the low, closed below that, and then it was skating right down before mean reverting right back to test the consolidation prior to breakdown and expansion to the downside. Now, of course, we're not yet seen a test of the prior highs from last year's prior to the breakout. Still in the cards here. Still very much available to go be tagged and picked up. And there is a big ass weekly zone of interest. So if you did watch any of the more recent videos, I have renamed that big weekly zone between 65. And somebody wanted me to contextualize that. The reason why I'm pulling in 65 is because of the basis band here on the monthly. So we have the upper first that we're trading below, and for volatility purposes, that's one standard deviation away from the basis band, which is a 20 simple. We're kind of playing in that volatility zone of interest right now. Now, of course, in the way that I've taught this, and the way that I've explained how I do this analysis for the public, it's trend, support, and resistance, volatility, and momentum, right? Those are the four key pillars that underpin every single trading system. And in this case, we're looking at the volatility piece. So there's other criteria, obviously, that needs to be taken into account. Of course, the support resistance zones of interest, and there's, theoretical support has not been tested yet from last year. So that's a zone of interest at minimum. But from a volatility standpoint, we're looking at, a nice uptrend, but we could get some mean reversion from a volatility standpoint, as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing under the upper first there at $86,000, down to that 80 or 65. I almost said 85. 85 is a key area that Bitcoin needs to pick up on lower term timeframes to give itself a chance to run its local highs. But as it stands right now, that's where I'm getting the 65 from. You'll see that in just a moment. But let's take a look at what's happening here that's actually important on the daily, and that is that Bitcoin is expending a lot of momentum locally to do a whole lot of nothing outside of set like a nice low down there, but that low hasn't even been confirmed as a major low just yet. But trading above the basis band, that's good. We need to see for right now on the swing trend, we need to see closes above 86.5 to kind of go test, around that upper 88 to $89,000 by that weekly higher low swing over here. That would be the much preferred scenario for the bulls here. And again, I need to see closes in there on a weekly time frame anyway to break the downtrend, as I mentioned on Monday. And if it's going to be bullish, not only would it break the downtrend, it also set a low. So we'll kind of just take a look at that just to visualize that, as I have picked up quite a few new followers on X and new subs on YouTube, although not many people watch on YouTube. Mainly everybody watches on X. So in this case, we're looking at the 88.8, pretty much that higher low swing. This is where I would consider this a confirmed low. Yes, you can front run that low on closes even above 86, 86.1, right where this close open's coming in. But might as well look at this as setting a low at 88.8 or $89,000 and get that reclaim. That would be a much more preferable look for the bulls, because that would set the low. That would also get a reclaim. That would also break the downtrend at the same time. So you'd have three things going on. You'd see a weekly low set. You'd see a reclaim of the overhead range, at least on the low side structure, on a swing basis, and then you'd see a downtrend break on closes above that 88.8. So it's kind of where we're at right now. A whole lot of nothing is happening right now. So, I guess the pause market is real, right? Now it could get real nasty though. We could hit play and go right back to the downside if things don't work out well for the bulls here. Locally, for the daily, we got to see, 83,000 is kind of where things kind of fall apart on closes. You could even take that 82,765 like I was talking about on Monday. It would still be above the basis. Obviously, though, if it's dropping that area, we're probably already heading down and confirming the closing high. The swing high up here at 86,491 is kind of already in, right? So it's a matter of what happens next. Does it set the closing high and then come back down? We have to be aware of around $80,000 right here by the lower first standard deviation to, just under $78,000. And you can use this wick low that was, we saw closes above at that 78,167. We saw some swings down, but then when we actually got the closes down there, that was frightening a lot of people, but it ended up hitting some of the downside targets we talked about, but front running the big ass weekly zone of interest down below. We did have that nice retest back here on the 9th that has led to this move up, but it's mean reversion. It's done a whole lot of nothing in terms of changing my outlook. It's still a downtrend on the weekly. It's still an uptrend on the monthly, right? So I'm still overall bullish. I'm bearish on the weekly until we see a reclaim of 89. And then on the daily, even if we do see a reclaim, Bitcoin's got some work to do. So let's go ahead and turn on support and resistance zones of interest. We've got that $85,000 post expansion swing low. That's kind of acted as a lower term time frame pivot, and preferable closes above there. Of course, we need to see the $86,000 area taken out to the upside, 86.5 or so. That close open right there was also on the 1.168 or 16.8% above the prior cycle high. In terms of that 69 to 15.5, so cycle high to bear low. The extension off that 16.8 percent was, or the 1.168 was 88,700. That's also where the close open of the first post expansion bearish candle came in, and then we had a higher low set right on it, and then I've defined that as on the uptrend as the next higher low on a close, as we were holding support in here. That is at around $92,000. Not much happens though, even below 93.5. We need to see a weekly close open reclaim overhead. I'll turn off the Bollinger Bands here as we are squeezing. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but we can come back to it. Just clear this up so it looks a little bit easier to read. But, need to see a reclaim here. And then again, I've mentioned this quite a few times on the daily. We could see progress on the weekly, but I would exercise caution below $95,000, the Twin Towers here. That retest of the breakdown. So just understand that is danger closing below there. That was a big rejection. Other than that, if we start to lose essentially 78 to 76,555, probably filling out that swing structure down here for the lower low that was just set, $74.5, $75,000. Anywhere below there, we're starting to dig down into that 73,835 all-time high to probably around $69,000-$70,000 in the big ass weekly zone of interest. We can always refine that. If I see the move kind of ongoing down in this area, I can just update either in the next video or on my timeline with some charts, just kind of describing what's going on. And yeah, what I would be aware of is, not too much going on in RSI. We have a bullish divergence that's played out right into resistance essentially. Regular Stoke. This is not a Stoke RSI, which measures the velocity of RSI. This is a close over close momentum indicator. And, we're seeing Bitcoin kind of spin its wheels right here. 83,164 is going to be the pivot for the Thursday candle. It's Wednesday for me. Thursday session is open though. Let's go ahead and take a look at actually some of the pivots that for momentum that are coming up though, and or are going to close soon. We've got the new 2-day did set the low, did get that nice bullish divergence. We have multiple drives there. Pivot's going to be 76,350. So, I would say, to kind of summarize, as long as Bitcoin is trading above like 78 to 80, I think it's fine to consolidate and more likely to test up into the overhead resistance again at that 89 to essentially 92, and then we just have to pay attention on what it does in those areas. But 2 days pointed up. 3-day we're looking at 78.5. 3-day is closing in. It's going to be closing on Friday, essentially. So I'll talk to you about that. We can always review that in a longer form video. 80,500 for the 4-day. 4-day is going to be closing at the same time. So we'll talk about it on Friday. And then the 5-day is turned and pointed up. Now, obviously, this is a counter trend momentum signal. The 5-day is expanded down. I don't really need support and resistance here, but when looking at the expansion, the contraction to expansion, this isn't doing much for me. Can it mean revert to like 91, 92? Like I said, sure, that's great. It can even come all the way back up to the upper first, around 99 to $100,000, even swing the highs, and we'd have to see structure form. Right now, there's not much happening here. It was expansion down. It's now trying to mean revert. Got the close open with the lower first passing it. What does that mean? It does mean that it's playing between the lower first now, between like 82.7 to that 91 to $92,000 in terms of volatility. We're back in a cool down or mean reversion phase. But even during those phases, you can see the lower second is back down by the lows. Very highly likely that if it starts to drop around that 82, we're going to see 80. And like I said, on the daily, probably 78 to 80 is fine as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing above there. Anywhere below there, we're probably looking at it testing the longer term time frame, lower seconds on like the 5-day and weekly. In this case, 74.5, so right around the low. Anywhere below there, it would just be continuation back to the downside. But we are getting a cool down. You just don't want to see closes back below lower second. That would be re-expansion and continuing to push down into this range, into the range highs. So something to pay attention to, but it is encouraging for the bulls here that they do have a counter trend signal. Even had a little bit of a RSI crossover up there. Weekly is the same thing. Like we got to see closes above essentially 79.5, 79,631 in this case as price. This will change ever so slightly, just like the lower first position will, while the weekly candle's open or the weekly session is open. It's at $84,000. Or 84,600. Sorry, that's live price is 80, right above 84. So 84.6 is the lower first right now. You can call it 84.5 as kind of the pivot on that lower first, and then we can look up to that 92.5 to 92.8, which is kind of the last lower high of rejection right in here, 92.8, right after the Twin Towers. So what does that mean? Watch 85. It is a lower term time frame pivot as it relates to the daily. It's turned out to be a pretty interesting level locally. Not surprising because we saw a bearish candle form post expansion there. But otherwise, it's just sideways. It is actually on pause for a little bit here. We're likely to see the move begin again soon. I would go to some lower term time frames, even like the 4-hour here. 83,480 gives it a chance. 12 hours is going to be your leading indicator for the daily. It's pointed down though, below 85.5, almost 85.6. So, the highs in for like the 12-hour, and I was focusing on the 12-hour over the weekend a little bit because it was just telling me that it was ready to consolidate and or come back down. The bulls want to see like a bullish reset of momentum while holding structure here on the low side. 83 is kind of the area. Can you get away with 80 with a swing below 83 to like the upper 82 region? Sure, but you don't want to see closes below 83. Base span at 82.5 and moving. Moving from an expansion mean reversion back to the upper first. This is actually a bearish look until we can actually see a solid reclaim of the swings over here. At 89. So again, we're right back to where we started. Need to see closes above 89 and then get follow through on closes above 89 on the weekly, of course, to break the downtrend, set a low, and get a higher low reclaim. And so that's kind of where I stand on things. Let's go ahead and just follow up really quickly with where ETH and SOL are. I believe ETH is, put in its high here, is headed back down. Bulls want to see basically 1500 hold, or else it's going to be retesting the lows and the upper 1300 to that 1369. Bulls want to see that held on to. Same thing. If you haven't seen before, below 1800 doesn't do much. We need to see intermediate closes within this area of interest above 1692. Start reclaiming 1800, and then I'm still heavily bearish below this red zone. And again, it's even worse for ETH and Solana, where that retest of the consolidation came in. It's 25.51. So still, it would be intensely bearish. Although on weeklies, would be very encouraging if we saw 2300. But it's got to make progress. Daily progress would be above 1800. Then we can start entertaining moves kind of a little bit at a time, just shy of 2K, and then back up to 2100, regain that 2300, take out like on a daily 2320, and then it's got a shot for 2550 or so. But if you're bearish, you want to see that 1500 drop to retest the low and possibly lower, right? If you're bullish, you'd like to see this compression continue to go sideways and hold that lower first right by 1500 or just over 1500, and then start breaking the local high here at that 1692 essentially by that upper second to get expansion up into 1800 and above possibly, because this is compression now. We've moved from expansion to compression, loading up the next move for Ethereum. Solana is trying to reverse itself, so it's back on its support. Came down and tagged its inner support area on the weekly here. Tagged that 98 and under to 95 to that 118 to 120 area. Back on top of 125. That's bullish. Now to get continuation, I mentioned this too. Got to take out that 136, 137 high. It spiked it directly, and then it's got to go for the 147. So locally, 147 gives it a chance for the 169. Nice. Bearish still below that area. On the daily, we need to see a recovery of 180. So it's still far away for alts. I think they got to dig themselves out and create some bullish structure, start getting some other signals that could potentially build to identify this as a major low area, not just bearish resets. So yeah, I mean, we kind of gotta wait. We gotta wait to see how this plays out. Of course, look at Bitcoin. That's going to be where your edge is, even if you aren't trading it, in terms of overall kind of market sentiment and structure. If it moves down hard, expect your alts to dump like hard. They're like teasing right at supports. Solana popped back up, but it could easily head right back down. And Ethereum playing the dance of doom right around 1500. Bulls want to see that area hold, and they want to pray for Bitcoin right now to go up and start to get a range low reclaim, start to dig themselves out over there. We shall see. That's going to do it for me today. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care.